Well, hello there. We're back for challenge number one, right? No wardrobe change or anything. So I hope that you watched the intro or the welcome message that I had for you so you'll know. I'll go through it if you need me to. Hey, I'm Coach Shaquan. We're at the 7 day challenge, all that good stuff. Let's get into it, right? 7 things, 7 challenges for you to have the best marriage in 2019 that you've ever had. Like, just this is we're going to take this thing over the top. And for day one, the first strategy that I'm going to share with you is going to be the foundation for the next 6 days, right? This is going to be key. This was like, oh, like this was the thing, right? So let me just tell you that I have for years, I have shifted past. For years I had a fear of falling out of love. I never understood why people were together for so long, or they would get married and then they would get divorced. I mean, so it had always been a fear of mine, pretty much a fear of divorce. So that probably makes sense why on our honeymoon night, we are laying on the beach and I lean over and I tell my husband, I go, I don't want to get divorced. Like, what can I do to make sure that we don't get divorced? And I'm just going on. And he was like, stop. Okay. Divorce is not an option. And I'm like, okay, but what if, he's like, first of all, we're on a honeymoon. Second of all, divorce is not an option. We are going to work this thing through, and we're going to be good. We're going to work this thing through. And so I believed him. And because I believed him and I wanted to make sure that we did not fall into those statistics of people who were so in love, and you go to these beautiful weddings and they're the hashtag perfect couple and favorite couple and all that. Like, that was us. And I did not want to ruin that. And so I became the wife that I thought he needed, or I wanted to be a better wife than I knew other people who had been through challenges and struggles and had divorced. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to do the same thing my parents did, and watching their pattern. And even though they're still married, 50 plus years of marriage, I know I was in the mix of that. So I know the challenges that they've had. So my intention was to do anything that I thought would make our marriage better. And after doing that for so many years, I became extremely resentful and angry because I felt like I kept giving, doing, and I wasn't receiving. I felt like it was things that just began to start just leveling out. The excitement was kind of gone. By this time, the kids had come along. I had just kind of lost it. I had settled into this position of being his mom their mom and his wife and everything to everybody in between. And it just drained the life out of me. Yet and still, when I went in public, I felt like I had to put on this perception or this facade, like, we're good, because what do they tell you? Don't tell nobody your business, and don't let nobody know when you having troubles. And so I believe that. And for me to tell somebody that, I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled, we aren't having sex, our finances are not good, and we're communicating, it's just not like, it's just routine. It really began to feel like that roommate status. And so I remember just getting so just down on myself and just crying it out. And I looked in the mirror one day and I was like, how did I get here, Lord? Ugly cry, right? How did I get here? And how long am I willing to stay? Like, is this what life is going to be like? Am I going to be stuck in an unfulfilled marriage and then have to live out this perception or other people's perception of us being this great couple? Everybody loves my husband. They think he's the sweetest guy ever. And how do I continue to live through that and fake it, right? And so I wanted to do something different. So in the process, and I'll share more about this when I'm working in my business courses, in the process of really discovering what I wanted to do with my career moving forward, once I enrolled in the certified coaching program is when I began to learn these tools about self-awareness, and I saw myself completely different. Like, I had no idea how I was showing up and how my husband was experiencing me. And after really digging down into the core and going to places where I promised I would never tell anybody about my shame and some hurts and some insecurities, like I had to go there and I had to stand in it, and I had to stop blaming my husband, and I had to stop feeling resentful against him and really own it, why I was where I was. How did I get here, really? And so it was a really, really challenging process, because it takes courage to be honest with yourself about yourself. It really takes you to be ready to stand in it, right? And not respond and not defend and not feel so attacked by the truth. And what I know to be truth is, when you do that, it's freeing, right? It allows you to forgive yourself. It allows you to support your own self, right? Be an advocate for yourself first. And so when I talk about being a leader in the life that you choose to live, once I stepped up and learned how to be a leader, right? Learned these tools that I'm going to be sharing with you over the next 7 days, how I can be the example, then I noticed how everything began to attract to me, and I began to attract the right things and the right people that would help me. So I wasn't always looking for things from my husband that he wasn't able to provide. And I was also able to redefine how I choose to be his wife. And then we created a win-win, and life is good. We still have challenges, there's no doubt, and things that come up. I have to implement these tools, and there's some things that I've taught him as well, and we are able to get back on track, so we don't go through those long periods, because I know how that feels. I know how shameful it feels to have people look at you and assume something about you and your marriage, and you really want to tell them, girl, we are not having sex. Like, we argue, we are not happy, I'm thinking about leaving, I have stepped out. So, and that's not my story. However, I do know some wives. I have coached some wives and worked with some wives who have not been fulfilled in their marriage, and they needed to seek that fulfillment from somewhere else. No judgment, no blame. It's the truth of what it is. Okay, so today we are going to focus on energy. Okay? Energy. Energy is the core of everything that I teach, and energy is the most powerful tool that I am going to share with you. Now, caveat, I probably will say this like 1,000 times, like, this is the powerful thing, because it all is, right? But energy is the foundation of everything that I will begin to share with you over these next 7 days and beyond, as we continue to build relationship with each other and really be the best, right, that we choose to be. So energy. In terms of self-awareness, energy is everything you hear, taste, touch, smell, see. So those are based off of your 5 senses. And those 5 senses then give you a perception of what you like and dislike about people, places, things, and situations. Okay? So I want you to absorb that. Your energy is part of self-awareness, right? And what you like, dislike. So what you hear, what you see, what you taste, what you feel, all of those senses. So when we break those down, there's 2 types of energy. The first one is called anabolic. And if we were live at an event, I would say anabolic. And you would say anabolic, right? So I'm going to give you the chance. Say anabolic. Yes. Anabolic energy, it is healing, it's constructive, and it is success focused. Anabolic energy actually releases hormones into your body, which produces growth. So when you think about being your best, and when you're at your best, and when you're happy, and when you're at peace, and when you're really fueled and really feeling in that position of power and purpose, you are exerting anabolic energy. Okay? Now on the flip side, there's catabolic energy. Let me hear you say catabolic. Yes, a little lower. Catabolic, child. Yes. Catabolic energy is draining, destructive, and fear-based. Catabolic energy actually releases chemicals in your body that eats away at your cells. So when you think about your stress and your anxiety and your worry and your fears and your headaches and your backaches and the stomach aches and all the pains that you're experiencing, those are triggers for the catabolic energy that you have in your body. How does this energy work? Well, everything begins with a thought. So the formula is thoughts create feelings, feelings create emotions, and emotions create action. Okay, let me say that again. Thoughts create feelings, feelings create emotions, and emotions create action. So if you have an anabolic thought, then your feeling will be anabolic, your emotion will be anabolic, and your action will be anabolic. Spirit fingers, right? However, if you're having catabolic thoughts, your thoughts will be catabolic, your feelings will be catabolic, your emotions will be catabolic, and then your action will be catabolic, which can in turn be an inaction. So let's take this and break it down into two very, very, very important things, right? Communication and connection. One of the things I hear most from couples, and especially wives, since it's communication, right? We don't communicate well. Either he shuts down or you pop off, or vice versa. You shut down and he pops off, and you all aren't communicating well. Well, it's interesting because before you get married, everyone tells you that communication is the key. Well, Coach Shaquan says communication is the key. It's not one size fits all. So there are 5 different types of communication, and I won't get into them today. However, know that if you are not aware of the type of energy that you're using with your communication, you could be using a style of communication that is that's influencing or impacting the way that you are catabolically connected with your husband. So when we begin to talk about connection is that thing that brings you together. So typically, let's say across the board, relationships are defined by 3 things: the way you communicate, the way you connect, and the way you behave. And when you and your husband met, there are 3 things that happen: physical attraction, potential, and expectation, right? We get the physical attraction out the way quick. Let's just be clear, ladies. And this may not be true for you. I would say the majority of us, right? We get the sex out the way really, really quick. And so after you've done that and you've got the sex in it and your anabolic energy is going, assuming that the sex is good, because that's another subject for another day. Didn't I tell you this was no thrills, no frills? This is just wife to wife wisdom here. Okay, so we'll laugh about it later. So once you really realize that, again, the sex is out the way, now you're left with potential and expectation. And my wife to wife, let me tell you, having a level of expectation for your husband that he is unable to meet will drive your catabolic energy. And thus your catabolic energy will cause a disconnection, or what I call an emotional detachment, that occurs into the marriage. And so when you are more anabolic, right, in your connection, and anabolic in the way that you communicate, you are more focused, and you are giving out an energy, right, that becomes attractive. So if I can say something that's uplifting and positive, how my husband responds does not affect me, because I've already created a mindset, right, around how I'm going to choose to communicate with him, regardless of how he responds. So being very conscious of your energy in terms of the communication is so valuable. Now, let me go back to this emotional detachment that I just mentioned and how the catabolic energy comes in. When you are emotionally detached from your husband, or vice versa, if he's emotionally detached from you, one of you will find a way to self-medicate. Let me say that again. If you are emotionally detached, right, your emotions are not attached. And when you think about emotions, one of the challenges, and I'll give this a caveat here, is define the emotional connection between you and your husband. Okay? So one of the challenges for this energy, find the emotional connection between you and your husband. How are you all emotionally connected? Now, if that's a challenge for you right now, if you're not having any connection, think about what it was in the beginning, or what you really want it to be. Okay? Is that clear? So once you find yourself in a place of being emotionally detached, what happens is you begin to self-medicate. So what does that look like, Coach? Well, infidelity, excessive drinking, excessive drug use, excessive shopping, excessive eating. You do things to detach away from the problem, right? Overuse of internet. Now you all on Facebook and you all on the gram at all kinds of times and nights. The enemy then allows somebody to slip in your DM. You may want to go check out somebody else. You begin dreaming and wishing of what your marriage could be by perceiving, right, your perception of what other people are doing. And so that drives more catabolic energy into your mindset that makes you even more frustrated, more resentful, more angry than you were in the first place. So again, those emotional detachments really come in. There's pornography that comes into place with this as well. And again, this is for husbands and wives. They're interchangeable when it comes to this emotional detachment. So one of the things that you must be mindful of is if you are feeling that type of disconnection, what's really happening, right? Where is your energy? And finding out what that emotional detachment looks like by starting with what keeps you emotionally attached. Okay. So again, that was challenge number 1. What keeps you emotionally attached? You got to define that for yourself. So again, when we're talking about energy and the anabolic and the catabolic energy, there are 7 levels to this thing. Now, again, we won't get into those today. Just know that 7 levels, and they range from 100% anabolic to 100% catabolic. There's a level that makes you have a victim thinking, woe is me, why is always me, and that's my truth. If anything resonates with you, again, if you've ever followed me and you know my style, if something resonates with you that I say to yourself or say out loud, depending who's around, right? That's my truth, coach. That's my truth, okay? Not your right, because it isn't about me. That's your truth. So there's again, I'm not going to go through the full process of these levels of energy. Just know that the bottom level is a very victim thinking, and then you move and you shift to a level. Level 1 is very victim thinking. I said I wasn't going to go through these, and I'm going to go through them. Okay, we'll be here just for a little bit longer. Okay, so level 1 is what we call it, and it's very victim thinking. Woe is me. Always happens to me. I never get what I want. It's very draining. It's very destructive. Then you shift to a level 2. Level 2 is when you get angry, right? What you not gonna do, and that's where the argument comes in, and that you're fighting heads. I have someone that I heard. Are you guys familiar? I hope that you are involved in a tribe called BEST. We are a Facebook community of wives, learning communities where we focus on building, empowering, self-awareness, and truth. Right. Tribe BEST is what we're called. And we were having a conversation about communication one time. And one of the wives said that her and her husband, when they argue, they text, right? One of them will be upstairs and one of them will be downstairs. And they had a big argument one time that impacted their daughter. So their solution was to not argue out loud. And so they communicate through text. Now, no right, wrong, good or bad, only what works. In terms of perception and the energy that you're creating, it is still a perception of we don't argue and you really do. So we'll get into that later. The point is that catabolic energy is in there still, right? So you're still communicating in a very catabolic way, and that catabolic way is going to drive that emotional detachment, that connection that really is needed in order to have a successful marriage. So when you're talking about level 3, kind of went around the block. If you know me, that's what I do. All right. If you talk about level 3 is it is what it is. I mean, this is the best that we can do right now. I'm too busy with the kids and being Uber mom and trying to get this stuff done at work. The people at work are getting on my nerves. My family's getting on my nerves. Somebody always want to borrow money. Like, it is what it is. I don't really have time for it. So now you're moving to more of a combination of anabolic and catabolic energy, because you're shifting to where you're not down in the dumps, right? Level 1, you're not angry. Level 2, and again, level 3 is just like, it is what it is. Then we move up to level 4, which I call the helper, healer, fixer. That's a lot of wives, right? A lot of us are helper, healer, fixers. And it is partially anabolic and partially catabolic, because the catabolic energy that you use to always be the one who people ask advice for, who need to borrow something for, who always has to do it. If you're in your household, right, and your husband, he can't fix dinner for himself, he doesn't clean up after himself, you have to discipline the kids, you have to bathe the kids, you have to shop for the kids, you have to do all of these things, or whatever the case may be, and then people are always calling you, and guess what? Nobody ever asks you if you need any help. Is that you? Are you a level 4? Say, that's my truth, coach. So yeah, that level 4 of energy really begins to kick in, and it can be draining. On the flip side, it can be anabolic, simply because that part of you that really is a nurturer and a giver really begins to fuel. So there are things that you don't mind about being the helper, healer, fixer. It's learning how to shift that energy so it's more on the anabolic side and decreases some of that level 4 catabolic draining energy. Okay. So when you move up to level 5 is like, boom, win-win. We are moving to probably about 85 to 90% of anabolic energy. It is where we're looking at win-win. What can we do to make this work best for the team? and you move to a level 6. Level 6 is like, okay, so now we're in the creating stage. Is now I'm really looking, what do I need to change? What do I need to do? And it doesn't depend. There is no judgment on what my husband is doing. There's no judgment on what anybody else is doing. I know that we've got to make this thing work. It's really talking about synthesis and coming together. And then you get to a level 7, which level 7 is the like that level, which no one resides on level 7 energy all the time. It's impossible. It's where you tap in, you get your ideas, you get your creation, you have that moment of connection where it's it just fuels you, and then you make the choice on where you want to jump down, which level you want to reside in. So part of it is about again being conscious of the level, because you can go from a 7 and be like, oh yes, this is so great, and then something can trigger you and you will be right back down to a 2. This mofo, then something will trigger that energy and really bring you back down. So wanted to give you that quick overview, even though I said I wasn't, because Coach likes to serve. And if we're talking about making 2019 your best year of marriage ever, these are the tools that you need. Okay, so your challenge over energy, I already talked about one, which was to make a list of the things that makes you and your husband emotionally connected. Okay, really take some time to think about it. Go to the dictionary, look up and find out what the definitions of emotion means, or what emotions are, so that you're clear. And then make a list. Find out those things that make you emotionally connected. Okay? The next challenge that I want you to do is to really begin to pay attention to your energy. So first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, where's your energy? Are you more on an anabolic, like today is going to be a good day? You're manifesting things to happen. You're being intentional to speak to your husband, to kiss your husband, to have some type of connection and touch with him, a hug, something. Are you intentional about making that happen, even in the busyness of the morning? Because if you're anything like this household, we're just like, grab this, da, 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 da. But just think about how that energy then impacts your whole household, right? Energy is contagious. And so if you are not intentional about the energy that you're going to start off in your household, it impacts everybody, right? And you are the wife, you are the leader, right? So it's important that you're conscious of that. And then throughout your day, I want you to be conscious. When you get the feeling, if it's a stress, if it's anxiety, if it's a worry, pay attention to your thoughts and mark them down. Is this thought anabolic or is this thought catabolic? And then ask yourself why. Okay? Simple enough. That's day 1 challenge. So I appreciate you again for joining this 7-day challenge, where I am going to show you how to make 2019 the best year of marriage you've ever had. Okay? And it all starts with energy. That's day 1. Stay tuned tomorrow. I'm going to drop the second one on you. Have fun. Talk to you soon. Peace. Bye, loves.